Today we are ranking the rookie wide receivers for Dynasty Fantasy Football. We're going to be looking at their player values for Dynasty, how we prospect them out as players going forward, their draft capital, and everything else. And what you're going to see here is the tier maker. We're going to put them into tiers. We rank these wide receivers every week. Every week we add in a few wide receivers and we change them up a little bit as we go through the process. If you noticed, compared to last week, the tiers are a little bit different. I do not have them ranked prior. I do this live on the fly with you guys, so I might change up the tiers as we go along. So you're going to need to pay attention to the entire video, listen to what I say to get the gist on these players. But before we start ranking these players, you need to click that subscribe button right now because I'm going to help you with your Dynasty rookie drafts. We're going to be ranking right after the draft. We're going to be talking about these players during the draft, after the draft, ad nauseum to help you win your rookie drafts. Then after that, we're going to still do the same thing, and I'm going to have the rookie camp clips live on the site right here. But let's get this started. We rank these players at random. However the tier maker lists them up, that's how I do it. But today, we are starting with the big boys. And no, I'm not talking about Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, but we're going to throw them both up here. Malik Nabers and Marvin Harrison Jr. And why do I do that? Because it's the same thing I say every single week when I do the rankings. I have them both as generational prospects. Pick your poison with them. It's going to be fabulous poison. They both have good odds to hit at the NFL level. Both of them are tremendous prospects. I like them both. And depending on the day, depending on the hour, depending on what I had for breakfast, that player will be the wide receiver 1 and the other one will be the wide receiver 2. That being said, I like them both. I like Malik Nabers because he's explosive, he's quick, he's nasty off the break, and he can get downfield and make plays happen. Marvin Harrison Jr., a good route runner, creates separation, good at the catch point, can get you some yak, and he's a player we've been waiting to come out this whole time, and he's got a lot of dynasty stock going into this, so he's going to hold that for a long time, and that's in his player value, and that's going to be in the rankings too. If they got some name cachet right now and we don't have the draft capital, I might as well put that into their grade, their ranking, because that is part of the prospect profile as well, because I can trade them and get a boatload if I needed to. You could do that if you needed to. I don't want to, but if I had to, that is part of the ranking there. That being said, we got to move on. We're going to be talking about Keon Coleman here. Just coming up. Next player up on the board here. We're talking about him already. And Keon Coleman is one of the best He is a putrid route runner. Sucks at creating separation. Keon Coleman, though, is not a fantastic prospect. He needs to go to the right spot, right situation. He needs a good quarterback. I do not know what happened there. My brain circuited. I got him confused with another player or something. But when I rank him, when I put him in the rankings, I can't put him in A tier, B tier. I know 2 months ago, people were ranking him around here. Combine happened. The Combine wasn't too bad. He didn't do well in the 40, but everything else, he didn't do too bad. I'm going to put him here in C tier. I've had him here for quite some time. He's not moving. He does need to go in a good situation. I think the draft capital is going to help him out. He's one of those players, kind of like Rashee Rice last year, who I was like, he needs to go in a great situation. That happened for him. I've said that about other players in the past. I'm going to put him right there. If he doesn't, he's going to hell. If he goes in a good situation, he might bump up or stay the same. That being said, as a player, I'm not too keen on him. But we're moving on to our next player. And this player, everybody likes, I like him a lot. Rome Odunze. I'm going to throw him up here. Let's see how that looks. How does that look to you with Rome Odunze up there? But Rome Odunze, I've liked him throughout the college season. Pac-12 After Dark. We've been watching him up. Can get downfield, make plays happen. And he's going to get that draft capital. But when I rank him and when I look at these two guys right here, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Nabers, they're just on a different level. And that's fine. If I rank Rome Odunze in last year's class, wide receiver 1, between him and Jordan Addison, JSN's up there too. Jordan Addison, I'd say he would be a little bit safer if you're going profile to profile ranking. But Rome Odunze, I'd probably take over that due to the upside, due to the ball skills. The draft capital is going to usurp that, so I would take Rome Odunze over him. But I'm playing devil's advocate because you know I'm going to be wrong a certain percentage. So why not play devil's advocate with yourself? Why not argue with yourself? But I would have him as the wide receiver 1 due to the size of just athleticism, the production profile, the draft capital that we're probably going to see him have. And I think he's locked in here as an A tier. He'd be a top tier guy in any class. He'd be the wide receiver 1 in most classes. This is an amazing wide receiver class, and you just have to realize that. So we're going to move on, and we got another big boy coming off the board here. Troy Franklin. Troy Franklin is a very cerebral route runner, can create separation, good at identifying the zone, has a lot of upside, especially in the right situation, could sneak in the first round, could fall somewhere in the second round. He is an iffy player. That is one thing we can say. Also, I am kind of leery about the quarterback situation. If he does not have the greatest quarterback situation, that might not be too great for him. I do not garner him as good as some of these top guys here. But I think in a great situation, he can be as productive as these guys for sure. That being said, he is one of my guys, but he's not going into my guys tier because he's valued too high for that for me. I'm putting him at B. Definitely have him over Keon Coleman. I feel like they'll probably have similar draft capital. I think Franklin has a better skill set, a better production profile, creates separation better. Quarterback might be an issue between the two. I might have to flip-flop that. I might have to change my mind if the draft says different. But I like me some Troy Franklin. I like the production. I like everything I see out of him. But it's time to move on. We got another wide receiver. Looked good at the Senior Bowl. A lot of people talking him up. Jim Nagy, owner of the Senior Bowl, whatever the hell you are. But Ladd McConkey here. Dude can create separation. The dude can run all the routes. He's got speed. But, you know what? Let me look real quick. I'm trying to see where that helped him at the college level because he hasn't broken out yet. I tried to watch the film real quick while we were here. It wasn't happening. The thing about Ladd McConkey, we're still waiting for him to break out. The production profile is still very risky here. We see the tape. I see the tape. I saw what he did at the Combine. I saw what he did at the Pro Day. We covered that on the channel. We know about this. He's still a risky profile. Not perfect. He really needs to go into a pristine situation. Sounds like somebody in this tier, right? Sounds like that. I'm going to put him here. I do like him a little bit better than Keon Coleman. I can't put him in the Troy Franklin range. I feel like the production profile, I know he was hurt a little bit, but still when you prorate it out, it's still not good. But the tape, the swiftiness, the ability to create separations there. Right quarterback, right situation, if he could go to the moon. That could definitely happen with Ladd McConkey. We're still waiting for him to break out. We're still waiting for that to happen. He hasn't done that. We're still waiting for him to do something. He's done nothing but look good at the Senior Bowl. Post good numbers at the Combine. Outside of that, he really hasn't done anything. Outside of that, maybe a couple good games on his career. Maybe a couple. Like I can count them on one hand. He is a wild card. He is a dangerous player. That being said, another Senior Bowl dandy's coming on down. Roman Wilson. And I like Roman Wilson. I like him a little bit better than Ladd McConkey, but I kind of got him garnered about the same in Dynasty value. I feel like they both have similar upside, but I like Roman Wilson a little bit more, a tiny bit more. I think he's got a little bit more of that dog in him at the catch point. I think he's a little bit more burstier off the break, but the production profile is still an issue for me. I still have him in the C tier. I'm not moving him up. I'm not moving him down. He's a guy I'm looking at in the second round of rookie drafts. Keon Coleman's back in C. These two guys right here are close. I think Roman Wilson's also a player. Very quarterback dependent. He could be a player that we look at, and if he falls a little bit in the draft, goes to a team where you're like, I don't know. There's another wide receiver there that we know is going to take 25% target share. We might be like, yeah, maybe. This wide receiver class is not as safe as what we make it out to be. It has a ton of potential. It has Hall of Fame potential, but it also has some landmines in it. And a lot of these wide receivers are more quarterback dependent than what we want to say. But come on down, another wide receiver. And I like this guy a lot. If you've been following the channel, Brendan Rice, come on down. And Brendan Rice might not get drafted in rookie drafts the same as some of the guys that are ranked a little bit higher than him, but that doesn't mean I don't like him more as a wide receiver or anything like that. I like how aggressive he is out of his break. He's just an aggressive player in total. He's got that my ball mentality. We saw that at the Senior Bowl. We saw that when he breaks off routes. I think he's got a lot of upside there. Right situation, right fit. Draft capital, what, day 2 somewhere, maybe latter part of day 2? I have him in my guys tier. He is a guy that I'm looking at in rookie drafts, that I'm looking at ADP, I'm looking at how my draft is swinging, I'm really paying attention to my shares, and if I can catch him at the right price, I might pay that much more, maybe a couple picks higher, to get him. I don't know if I can rank him higher than the other guys. As a wide receiver, I could definitely do that. Draft capital may play into that, but he's definitely one of my guys. And when I say that, I also got to have a tier for that to let you know, because that's a different type of player, type of value, type of thing I'm looking at, because that's actually a player that I'm going to be invested in, that I'm paying attention to. All these other guys, they're kind of just there. They're going to be drafted around ADP. They're not going to have any mental stock involved. I'm just going to be playing the game with. Kind of my guy here. I like the value, especially in rookie drafts right now, in mock drafts, early 3rd, mid-3rd. I love that. If he jumps up the board a bit, late 2nd, I love that. Brendan Rice is a player I'm paying attention to. There's another wide receiver coming up here that we got to talk about here. Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy broke out at age 18. We got a good size, adjusted speed score. We got good speed. We got good deep speed. We can be used on the short game as a yak monster. We can be used as a deep ball threat. I think he'll get higher draft capital than expected, because we were looking at those PFF mock draft simulators. They got him falling deep in the 2nd round. I think he was going to be drafted a little bit higher than that. I don't know if he can get to the 1st. I don't know if that combine buzz is still there. I do like him a lot. I'm starting to simmer down on him. I'm still going to rank him in the same spot. What I think about Tier C here, he's got more production than Ladd McConkey. He's got that speed, that deep speed. He can create separation. Ladd McConkey's a little bit more technical. Keon Coleman, not near as productive. Does not have the same breakout age or anything like that. Xavier Worthy, he's got the deep speed, wins on separation too. Keon Coleman's kind of like that different club in your bag if you need that wide receiver on your team. If you need that bigger wide receiver that can get downfield, make plays happen, good at the catch point, if you need that. Roman Wilson, he's more productive than him. He's younger. He can create separation just as good. Maybe not just as good. Roman Wilson's a shade more technical, but Worthy's technical in his own right. I think I'm going to have him here. I'm going to keep him in B with Troy Franklin, and I think they got some upside. I think this is a tier that could move down or up depending on what happens. But we're going to move on because we got another wide receiver coming up that we need to talk about here. Malachi Corley. Talking about him, Steve Smith loves him. He's got the thickness, gets you yards after the catch. Could be that sneaky wide receiver that hits for us, especially if he lands in the right situation. But also a G5 wide receiver. Sometimes those wide receivers need a little bit more seasoning, sometimes not. But he was very productive at the college level. That being said, when I rank him, he's either a Flyer A or a C. I think Flyer A might need changed. But now when I think about him more, like his draft capital may not be too far off from these guys. How he wins on the field isn't too far off, like in his abilities from these guys, honestly. And we're talking about right situation, and these guys could be hitters and moving up. And only so many of these guys can do that. Why not here? Why not here? Am I going to be drafting him over Brendan Rice? That's another question. And ADP-wise, I think they're going to be very similar. And Brendan Rice I'd probably take over on some accounts depending on situation. Malachi Corley, I'm probably going to put there. C and my guys are kind of pushing with each other. Let's just say that. Now you're confused if you're fast forwarding, which you should. You should be paying attention to the whole thing because I told you to do that in the beginning. But that's just how we do things on this channel. But we're moving on. We got another big name wide receiver. He's been weighing heavy on my mind lately, and I don't know what to do with him. And that's Xavier Legette, because I can see a lot of different things with this guy. I can see him being a total flop. I can definitely see him also being a surprise wide receiver. A wide receiver, maybe not a surprise, but a wide receiver that a lot of people overlooked because we do have that size of just athleticism. When we got to the Senior Bowl, he kind of showed off more than what he was doing at South Carolina, but he's also an older wide receiver. The odds are kind of against that, but if the draft capital is there, that kind of like even Stevens that out. On top of that, Xavier Legette, if he develops or if he's with a good quarterback that pushes it to him, that's not afraid, that could be all he needs. I am highly watching him. The combine was huge for me with this guy because I saw the athleticism on the tape and I needed him to test to that. If he did not test to that, I was going to send him to hell. He was going to be that player. It's not like I wasn't rooting for him, but I needed him to test to what I was seeing on tape and test to the hype. He did that. And he's a player I'm paying attention heavy to. I can't say he's a flyer, and I feel dirty putting him with these guys, but he's also a guy I'm heavily watching. Is he like my guy? I don't know. I don't know if he's my guy. I can't put him here or here. That'd be asinine. I can't say he's a flyer. Maybe that just needs to change to D or the next guys or whatever. But he's definitely not a flyer. So we're going to put him here. Call it next guys. Really confuse the people who are just fast forwarding. But he's almost to a my guy region. Because people aren't paying attention to him that much. And people are just disregarding him due to the age and some of the blemishes. And you know what? Sometimes we want to troll with our players and take them at value. Because you can definitely see the upside there. The odds of hitting that upside is not as grand as some of these guys. But it's also still there. You got to pay attention to him. Next guy tier. Next guy tier. Coming on down, Jalen Polk. Jalen Polk's one of those wide receivers who gets like 5 minutes of frame during the draft season. Has some upside, though, to his game because he can get downfield. Has good ball skills. But on top of that, this is a deep wide receiver class. Draft capital is going to be very interesting with him. And when I rate him with these wide receivers, not with Rome Odunze, not here. I don't think he's going to get the draft capital with these guys. This is a special tier. Next guy tier is fine. He could be a surprise player if he lands with a quarterback that loves to push it downfield. Like a Josh Allen. Carr from the Saints, maybe. Maybe him and Chris Olave together. They catch him on a discount middle of the draft somewhere. Some quarterback that likes to push it downfield. Or if he lands with a team with a good quarterback in general, and he's on the field running routes, getting opportunity. The thing about this draft, not all these wide receivers are going to hit. You have to understand how they're not going to hit as well. The odds are more in favor with the S tier and A tier. Little bit B tier. C tier, kind of need the right situation. My guys are my values that I'm looking at. Next guys are guys kind of below C tier that are still damn good, that are probably B or C tier in any other year. That's the thing about that. But we got a heavy hitter coming on up. He's been weighing on my heart a lot lately. Brian Thomas. Brian Thomas, come on down. The thing about Brian Thomas, excellent release package, very explosive off that, can get downfield, make plays happen, has good ball skills, more than likely getting first round draft capital, more than likely going to middle to late part of the first round, could have a good quarterback there tossing him the rock. That potential situation there kind of puts him here. Him as a player, though, the volatility, like the downside, it's not like we have multiple years of top-end production. And you can say why, because it's LSU and they got a lot of wide receivers to compete there. But it still didn't happen. That's still red flag. And it's really hard to put someone in A tier and S tier. Like, if I put him in last year's class, would he be the wide receiver one hands down? Because we have it with this guy right here. I'm objectively going through my rankings from the last few weeks, and I think I got to put him down with these guys. Let's put him there, because situational through the draft might put him up to A anyways, because if he lands with Josh Allen, Looks like he's going to be the wide receiver 1. Looks like he's going to be the deep threat there. And you're going to have to bump him up a bit, or at least hold him in a higher regard of B, or split up these tiers in some different way. But right now, the volatility is still there. The downside's still there. Like, you got to be real with yourself. You may like him. I see the upside. I like him. I've had him up here before. I mentioned why he's volatile. I have to look at that, and I have to address it accordingly. I have to fight with myself every week on these players, and if I don't, there's no reason why I'm doing this. And that's what you got to do too. You have to fight yourself with these players. You have to look at the downside with the good. Even with my guys, I'm fighting myself with them. I'm looking at ADP, and I'm discount shopping. That being said, we got to move on. We can't talk about Brian Thomas all damn day. Now we're looking at Jacob Cowan. That looks silly. But he broke out at age 18. Good at the G5 level. Good at the Power 5 level. Broke out with 2 different collegiate programs. He's still a flyer wide receiver. He's not going to get the draft capital. He's a day 3 guy. He might jump up there. He might surprise us. Still going to be a day 3 guy. The odds are going to be a little bit stacked against him due to the draft capital. No sunk cost really invested in him. Maybe in a different draft class, he might reach in the back end of day 2 or early day 3. That being said, you're still paying attention to him. These wide receivers are going to come off the board very quick on day 2. After day 2, this board is going to be done. It's going to be done. We go into day 3, Jacob Cowan may not be there because these teams are going to invest into the wide receiver position. But we got to move on. We're moving on to our next wide receiver here, A.D. Mitchell. Come on down. He's a very volatile wide receiver as well because of the production profile, what we saw from him in college, but he can break off routes. We got that deep speed. We got that upside. I like him a lot. A.D. Mitchell is a good wide receiver. You put him in a lot of wide receiver classes, he's up around this area. But this year, I think he fits best here. Him and Xavier Worthy, there's a good argument there. Him and Troy Franklin. But Brian Thomas draft capital, you know he's going to get ahead of him. Maybe he needs his own tier. We don't have room for that right now. Brian Thomas ahead of him in the B tier. But AD, Troy Franklin, really depends on what's going on here. I like Troy Franklin a lot. I think he's got tremendous upside when we're talking about this tier. But again, draft capital situation, it all matters. But let's move on to our next wide receiver, Tez Walker. This dude's got some upside due to his deep speed, creates separation, has good hands. Did not look good at the Senior Bowl. Draft capital could be wonky with him. Situation's really going to matter because he needs a quarterback to throw it deep. He fits well down here. He fits well in this tier right here. He fits well. He's a little bit more than just a flyer. So, next guy. He's the next guy. He's the next guy. You're done with that tier in the second round of your rookie draft. You're looking at the wide receivers who's next. Next guy. Now we look at Xavier Legette. Maybe he does not fit that. Maybe he doesn't. But he's going to be the top of the next guys. Let's just say that. But we got a big guy coming on down here, Ricky Pearsall. Ricky Pearsall's got a lot of upside. I like Ricky Pearsall. I think when I look at him among these wide receivers, I think he's going to be drafted a little bit higher than expected. Early day 2, the ball skills, the separation, it's all there. You can put him in the slot. You can put him on the outside. Could land with a good team due to where he's going to go in the draft. He's also one of my guys, him and Brendan Rice. I think I'd probably have him ahead of Brendan Rice because I think he's going to get better draft capital. I think the NFL is going to like him a little bit more. But honestly, I'm just going to play the game. I play the Dynasty game. I play the values. I'll trade around. I'll move around. It is what it is. It is what it is. But come on down, Javon Baker. A lot of people like him as well. He's nasty at the catch point. Nasty at breaking off routes. Very productive at UCF. And you know what? You know what? He's also one of my guys. He's a guy that I'm shooting for in my draft. So I'm not going to get every single share of these guys in all my teams. But I'm going to mix it around. I'm going to play around with the board. Them and the running backs. I'm going to play around with those values. But that's what I'm working with. Those are my guys so far. So far, I might change it up. But I got another wide receiver that I like that's coming off the board, Malik Washington. Very productive, looked good, having a tremendous draft season, looked good at the Shrine game, had a good combine. I think draft value is going to matter. He could move up to the next guy, but he's also a flyer. He's a top-end flyer. Very comparable to Jacob Cowing when you look at profiles. Not on tape, but when you look at profiles, like a guy that's kind of going under the radar, that's very productive, that's also very nuanced, that could really surprise us compared to some of these wide receivers. I think that's a good fit for him. And Flyer B, or just the Flyer tier, it's going to have some different players in it because now it's time to start working on these guys. Cornelius Johnson, I don't like him too much. He's got to land in a good situation. He's got to get overdrafted by somebody. He's got to get the perfect quarterback, so like a Mahomes-type quarterback, and get overdrafted at the same time. The odds of that's not happening. Flyer B, probably going to bet the back end of this. I don't like him. He's slow getting out of his break, slow getting off the release. He's got some length there. Production profile is not there. You can say you got Jim Harbaugh, but honestly, the skill set's not there when you watch him on tape. But Jamari Thrash, though. Jamari Thrash has a lot of upside. He's got a lot of burst off the release and in the open field and after the catch. I am either going to put him in Flyer B or the next guy tier. The thing about him compared to these guys is that speed in the open field kind of makes him a little different compared to the Flyer B. Like, you're still pulling him as a flyer in your draft, so maybe he should be just up at the front. But also, like, that speed, that burst, what we're seeing on tape, kind of puts him in the next guy territory. So let's just put him up front. Jalen McMillan here. We're looking at him. Fantastic route runner, can create separation. Had some injuries on his career. When I think about him, draft capital is going to matter. Where he goes, fit-wise, is going to matter. Next guy or flyer. Kind of like in Jamari Thrash range. Also like Washington and Cowing a little better. It's a hard guy to put in tiers. Let's put him right there. Let's put him right there. We might be moving him up after the draft. We might be moving him up if the NFL likes him. I like Johnny Wilson. I like that he's position versatile because he might be a tight end because he's huge and he's massive. He's got strong mitts there. I like him better than Cornelius Johnson. I do not know what the NFL is going to think about him. He's not rated super high like that. But considering the position versatility, I'm going to put him above McMillan. Jermaine Burton has good speed coming off the release. He can get downfield, can get a good average depth of target. I'm going to put him more around the Jamari Thrash range. I know in the My Guy video I had him here, but he's more like My Guy of the Flyers. And I think both these guys were there. They're more like My Guy of the Flyers. You can put Washington there too. But I am going to be targeting him late in drafts if those running backs aren't there that I like. Taj Washington is a wide receiver I'm paying attention to. He does have some burst in the second level. I'm going to put him here, but he's more like a flyer in drafts. Like, he's going to go at a spot in the draft and in rookie drafts where you're not putting too much stock in anyways. And Nia Smith, he'd make a good Dolphin. He would. He'd add depth to that team in the backfield as a jigsaw piece, not just as a wide receiver, but there's 31 other teams and not a top guy in this class. I'm going to put him here. If he goes in a grand situation, we'll move him up a tier. But Luke McCaffrey, one of the new guys this week. I'm not really sold on him. Big Draft likes him. They like him a lot. I'm not really sold on him too much. There's other wide receivers I like Malik Washington, Jacob Cowing, Johnny Wilson. I'll put him like right here. I'll give Big Draft some gusto. Anthony Gold. Again, another wide receiver that is just getting drenched on. Not slept on, but drenched on by all the good wide receivers. Definitely see where there could be some upside, but he's probably not going to get the draft capital. I think I'd put him around this range. And then we got MRJ, a guy that's rated high on some boards, surprisingly. I'll see what the NFL says. I'll put him around here, around Anthony Gold. He's a flyer. If that might go undrafted in your rookie draft. But this is the board right now. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.